How's it going, guys? It is Galake from theavidentries.com, or I suppose formerly the Avid Entries and now the Phantom Pages. And today I'm going to be continuing at long last Teal Swans, the completion process book. We started this a long time ago, and if you saw my last uploaded reading sometime last week, I did say I'm going to be getting back to doing these readings as often as I can. I am aiming for daily or at least every other day. Some of these chapters are very long, so I kind of have to pick which days and which nights would be best for me to do recordings for these, since I also have to prioritize my other channel at the same time. So trying to decide exactly which I want to do a video for can be a little indecisive at times, but we did the Kybalion in the last upload, so I suppose for the meantime, at least, I'm going to just alternate between both books. So one day it'll be Kybalion, next day it'll be completion process, and just like that until we finish both of them up. So anyway, we're going to continue with the completion process today. We are on part 2, chapter 2, or this is, I think this is still part 1. So yeah, I guess this video will be part 1, chapter 2, which is entitled Digging Up What Was Buried. This is a little bit of a lengthy chapter, so sit tight, get your notes and notebooks ready if you need to do so, which reminds me, I really do need my highlighter. I think this book is a little more down to earth than the Kybalion is, so I probably won't need my highlighter as much. But I will grab it anyway, and I've got my glasses on to help me, even though they make me look like 20 years older. Anyway, perhaps you have heard this before. In order to reach a state of optimal health, you must address your issues with body, mind, and soul. These 3 elements of a person have long been considered the pillars of a complete life. But what if I told you that that isn't quite right? When we think of soul, we often imagine an ethereal and intangible energy, because feelings and emotions are also ethereal and intangible, and we don't quite understand them either. We sometimes call our emotions our soul. This is why advice about how to feed and heal your soul is usually designed to help you feel better emotionally. Emotional wake-up call. I suggest another view. In truth, our souls are innately healthy, and therefore can't be in an unhealthy state. When I speak about soul, I mean that your soul is your non-physical eternal essence. Your soul is energy. It creates feelings, and it also creates our minds and bodies. All 3 elements of a person are in fact composed of soul. Your body is your soul projecting itself physically. Your mind is your soul projecting itself mentally. Feelings are how a soul consciously perceives and communicates. Following this premise, the 3 pillars of health are body, mind, and emotion, with emotion as the language of the soul. If you choose to see it this way, then the key to soul health is really your emotional health. When we use the word soul, we are referring to the core aspect of a person's being. In the English language, soul and heart are interchangeable terms. This is why someone who is speaking from the core of their being may say, "I know in my heart that fill in the blank." What this means is that deep down we know that the very heart of our experience in life isn't mental or physical, it's feeling and emotion. This makes perfect sense because babies and children experience the world almost entirely through felt perception. Feeling and emotion are not only the heart of our lives here on earth, but they also form the heart of our relationships, because feeling and emotion are the heart of relationships. They are also typically the most damaged. I think that's a very good paragraph there. Raising children who are healthy and whole. Regardless of how far we have progressed as a society, the goal of parenting is still to have a compliant, and obedient child, not to raise our children to become healthy adults. The goal is to raise a child who is good. Our justice system takes the exact same approach with regard to criminal behavior. We are concerned with correcting this perceived misbehavior and creating good citizens while being unconcerned with the feelings that motivate such misbehavior. The bottom line here is that good parenting involves emotion and good relationships involve emotion. Not realizing this, most parents today make one or more crucial mistakes. First, they disapprove of their children's emotions. Second, they dismiss their children's emotions. Third, they offer no practical guidance to the child. For example, imagine that young Joey doesn't want to go to school and begins to cry when his parent tries to drop him off. The disapproving parent might scold Joey for his refusal to cooperate or resort to calling him a brat or punish him with a timeout or with a spanking. The dismissive parent may brush off Joey's emotions by saying, "That's silly. There's no reason to be sad about going to school. Now turn that frown upside down." The dismissive parent may even distract Joey from his emotions by giving him a cookie or pointing out a horse in a field on their way to school. Some parents are empathetic, but offer no guidance. The empathetic parent may tell Joey that it's okay to feel sad or scared, but the same parent wouldn't continue to help Joey decide what to do with his uncomfortable feelings. More than likely, this parent would instead leave him with the belief and feeling that his emotions are an all-consuming force that he is powerless to do anything about. Children who are raised in unhealthy emotional environments aren't able to soothe themselves. Very often, they fail to emotionally connect with their family. If they don't develop intimacy at home, they feel desperately isolated and alone, which may also lead to health problems. These children grow into adults who aren't capable of managing their emotions and who struggle to make relationships work. They develop powerless, codependent relationships, and while they may have deep need for other people, they might simultaneously suffer with an extreme fear of intimacy. In my opinion, the number one cause of sociopathic and psychopathic behavior in adults is the result of unhealthy emotional environments in childhood. Keep in mind that it's more difficult to recognize emotional dysfunction than it is to recognize overt abuse. Many of the serial killers and school shooters who came from reportedly healthy homes didn't in fact come from healthy homes at all. They may have come from physically healthy homes where they were fed, clothed, and given many advantages, but underneath that lovely-looking exterior was extreme emotional dysfunction so damaging that it kept them from connecting with other people. Sorry, my throat is just like today. It's just... I think what I probably shouldn't do is ever eat before I do a reading. Emotional dismissal and emotional disapproval are forms of emotional abuse. When a parent disapproves of their child's emotion or dismisses it, the child begins to accept the parent's estimation of the event and learns to doubt his or her own judgment. As a result, the child loses self-confidence. When emotional dysfunction rules the relationship, the child learns that it's wrong to feel the way that they feel. And here's the crux of the matter. The child believes that if it's wrong to feel the way they feel, but they feel that way anyway, they become convinced that something must be wrong with them. Next section, long-term damage. It's not the uncomfortable feeling themselves that hurt. It's our resistance to the uncomfortable feelings that causes us pain. Psychiatrists' offices are full of people who are raised in emotionally dysfunctional homes. These people grow up to believe that there's something wrong with them because they shouldn't feel how they feel. In actuality, they should feel exactly how they feel. They have perfect and sound reasons to feel how they feel, and the idea that something is wrong with them is a fallacy that is the byproduct of having their emotions invalidated over and over again. Having your emotions constantly invalidated is a key cause of anxiety. Anxiety disorder is so often the result of extreme self doubt and self distrust. Self distrust or being afraid of yourself is another result of being led to believe that you should not feel how you feel. When you fear yourself, you have constant anxiety. It's like living with an enemy inside of your own skin. In my estimation, the future will see an evolution of psychiatry and psychology. I don't know why I said it like that. Psychiatry and psychology. The many mental disorders that we think are causing symptoms will be seen as symptoms themselves. Today's mental illnesses will be understood as adaptations caused by experiences that a person went through, usually early in life. Long story short, if our parents didn't teach us how to deal with our own emotions, we're doomed to have painful friendships and unfulfilled romantic relationships because we don't know how to emotionally relate to one another. We fail to develop true intimacy, and we tend to dismiss each other's emotions because that's what was modeled to us. We disapprove of each other's feelings, telling other people how they should and shouldn't feel. We have no patience for the emotional needs of others because we view emotions and feelings as weaknesses. We call people who display emotions overly sensitive. As a result of all this, our adult relationships are emotionally unhealthy. There are many different ways that our adult relationships are shaped by childhood emotional neglect and turn out to be emotionally dysfunctional. For example, think about a woman who goes to lunch with her friend. She's disappointed because she didn't get promoted at work the way she thought she would, but her friend tells her she's just being negative. Her friend says that she needs to look on the bright side because she's just creating more disappointment by being so negative. And what about a husband who gets home late from work to find his wife crying the minute he walks through the door? The husband sees her crying and immediately says, "You always overreact. I was only half an hour late." Half hour late. Maybe you're just oh my god. Maybe you're just menopausal. You need professional help. Then he withdraws to his den to watch television. Or consider a man who is facing a divorce. He tells his friends what's going on, and they convince him to join them for an evening out. When he shows up, none of them acknowledge that he's going through a difficult time with his relationship. Instead, they encourage him not to think about it, to have another drink, to watch the sports game, and to look at the pretty girls at the bar. Next section. Emotions and intimacy. Regardless of whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, emotions and feelings are the heart of every healthy and meaningful relationship. Without a healthy emotional life, a relationship is not a relationship. It is a social arrangement where no intimacy or connection exists. It's important to understand that intimacy is not about sex. Sex may be a byproduct of intimacy, but it's not intimacy in and of itself. Intimacy is about knowing yourself and being known by others for who you really are in all aspects of your life. It's the bringing forth of the truth about who you are and being received while, at the same time, the other person brings forth the truth of who they are and is received for that. Intimacy is a meeting at the heart center, where empathy and understanding occur. I have said it before and I'm going to say it again. Intimacy can be broken down into the three-word phrase, into me see. I like that. Intimacy is to see into another so as to deeply connect. If the core of who you are is your feelings and the language of the soul is feelings, then the most important part of intimacy is the emotional connection you share and the understanding you have of each other's feelings. The bottom line is emotions matter. We must see the importance and value in each other's feelings. We must show respect for each other's emotions. We must listen for the feelings behind the words. We must open ourselves to being understood and open ourselves to understanding others. Furthermore, this level of understanding should always precede advice. If you tell someone how she should or shouldn't feel, you are teaching her to distrust herself. You are teaching her that there is something wrong with her. Next section, improving your relationship with yourself. Now we come to one of the most important parts of emotional health. You're in a relationship with yourself, which means which means your own emotions must matter to you. It's very important that you acknowledge and validate your own emotions and not to dismiss them or disapprove of them the way you might have been taught or shown as a child. To do this, I recommend you follow the 6 steps outlined below and apply them to your relationship with yourself. This will help you deal with any negative emotions or inner conflicts that may arise. 1. Become aware of your emotions. Pay attention to how they manifest within your body and what sensations accompany them. 2. Care about your emotions by seeing them as valid and important. We tend to treat our emotions as an abstract nuisance. To work with emotions, we have to recognize that there is a good reason for them. Their presence is designed to serve us, not hinder us. 3. Listen empathetically to your own emotions and try to understand why you feel the way you feel. Allow yourself to feel safe and be vulnerable without fear or self-judgment. Seek to truly understand your emotions and feelings. 4. Acknowledge and validate your own feelings. If it helps, try to label each emotion you feel. It's valid to feel the way you feel, so avoid self-critical statements such as, "I feel so useless." Validate yourself by saying, "I can totally see how what happened could make me feel useless, and it's okay to feel that way." 5. Allow yourself to feel how you feel and experience your emotions fully before moving toward any kind of improvement. Okay. Give yourself permission to say when you are ready to improve the way you feel. Don't impose a timeline on yourself. Practice unconditional focus, presence, and continue to feel unconditional love for yourself until you're ready to shift into a new emotion. 6. After, and only after, you are able to validate, acknowledge, and fully feel your emotions should you strategize ways to manage your reactions. Think of new ways you might look at a situation to improve how you are feeling. Give yourself the kindest and best advice you can. And if the time still isn't right to shift emotions, don't push it. Your own shift in emotion will come when it comes. Next section, how to deal with the negative emotions of others. The way we deal with negative emotions in others dictates how healthy or unhealthy our relationships are. Before we progress into the completion process, we must learn the correct way to approach negative emotions in our relationships. You can use the same 6 concrete steps above in order to develop an emotional connection with another person and enhance your intimacy. This works with children as well as adults. These steps are solid gold in a relationship when facing any kind of negative feedback or conflict. Here are the steps to master. 1. Become aware of the other person's emotions and watch how their body language changes. We have the tendency to live in our own little bubbles. We need to become more attuned to others around us so that when they have an emotional reaction, we can feel it empathetically. I think it's supposed to be pronounced empathically. Empathically. I keep saying empathetically. I don't know if I'm saying that right. 2. Care about the other person's emotions by seeing them as valid and important, the same way you would with your own emotions. 3. Listen empathically. No, I don't think it. I think it is empathetically. Empathetically. Listen empathetically to the other person's emotions in an attempt to understand the way they feel. This allows them to feel safe enough to be vulnerable without fear of judgment. Seek to understand instead of to agree. 4. Acknowledge and validate their feelings. This may include helping them to find words to label their emotions. To acknowledge and validate a person's feelings, we don't need to validate that the thoughts they have about their emotions are correct. We simply need to let them know that it's valid to feel the way that they feel. For example, if our friend says, "I feel useless," we don't validate them by saying, "You're right, you are useless." Instead, we could validate them by saying, "I can totally see how that would make you feel useless, and I would feel the same way if I were you. 5. Allow the person to feel how they feel and to experience their emotions fully before moving toward any kind of improvement in feeling. We need to give them permission to dictate when they are ready to move toward an improvement. We shouldn't impose on them our own idea of when they should be ready or when they should be able to feel differently. This is the step where we practice unconditional, focused presence and unconditional love. We're there to support them without trying to fix them. Don't be offended if they don't accept your support at this time. There is a benevolent power inherent in offering. By making the offer, you are offering love in and of itself, regardless of what someone does or doesn't do with it. 6. After, and only after their feelings have been validated, acknowledged, and fully felt, help the other person find ways to manage the reactions they have to their emotions. This is a step when you can suggest new ways of looking at a situation that may improve the way the other person is feeling. This is when advice can be offered. Next section. What's all the drama about? Drama originally meant to act. This is why the word debuted in the world of performance art and theater. As it relates to your emotional life, drama is a state, situation, or series of events involving intense conflict. Put these two things together and you have the definition of a person who is dramatic, a person who acts as if they are in a state of intense conflict. The perception is that a person who is dramatic or who is a drama queen or king is either overreacting or is acting for the sake of attention, much like a performer on stage. You know the type of person I mean. Someone who acts as if things are much worse than you think they actually are. Because of this, there is a stigma associated with drama. We often hear people say, "I'm done with all the drama," or "he's addicted to drama," or "she's just a drama queen." I don't subscribe to this thinking at all, and I'd like to get this out of the way right here and now. When it applies to the human emotional experience, there is no such thing as drama. When you make a judgment that someone is creating drama or just being dramatic, you minimize and shame them for their feelings. I can assure you that these feelings are actually very real. In truth, no one overreacts. People react exactly in accordance with the reality that they alone perceive. However, you should also realize that our perception and reality are not the same. For example, let's pretend that you are married and that you tend to forget to wear your wedding ring. Let's say you left it on the counter by the sink during your shower and forgot to put it back on. Your spouse gets really upset about it and spends the next 20 minutes both crying over the matter and yelling at you about it. You may look at your spouse and think, this person is really dramatic. After all, you still love your spouse and it's just a ring. All you did was forget to put it back on. Your perspective is that your loved one is either acting out for the sake of attention or is overreacting. But let's jump into your spouse's perspective for a minute. What if your spouse is very attached to wedding rings as a visual symbol of love? When you forget your wedding ring, your partner's reality is, my spouse has forgotten me or doesn't love me anymore. Then consider that this thinking is compounded with negative memories. Let's say your spouse was married once before. One day your partner came home to a house empty except for a wedding band sitting on the countertop, left by the spouse as a symbol that it was all over. That's why your spouse associates a wedding ring left on the counter with being abandoned. Now you can see that the only reason they seem dramatic to you is because you don't recognize that at this moment you are living in different realities. You are living in a reality where you forgot to put on a piece of jewelry because you took a shower. They are living in a reality where you don't love them anymore and are going to leave them. Does the reaction seem so overly dramatic? No. You can see now that it seems perfectly called for. You'd most likely react the same way, or react the same exact way if you thought you were unloved and your spouse was about to leave you. Boy, I'm really struggling today. Next section. Whose perspective is the truth? When we think someone is being dramatic, we often tell the person to be reasonable or take a reality check. but asking people to be reasonable or look at reality is asking them to conform their perspective to your perspective. Offering them your perspective will sometimes help them feel better, but that doesn't mean that your perspective or your grasp on reality is correct. When it comes to perspective, the truth is subjective. If you think someone is acting as if a situation is worse than you think it is, it probably means that situation is worse than the one you are imagining. Another way of saying this is that the meaning they have assigned to a situation is more painful than the meaning you have assigned to the situation. So now you can see that we act perfectly in accordance with the reality we perceive. We are all acting from our own truths. Once you realize and accept this, you'll no longer feel the same level of resistance you might have felt in the past. You could stop minimizing or invalidating their feelings and stop shaming them for feeling the way they do. It won't seem as if they're overreacting, and you'll find that you won't take their behavior so personally. People who say, "I don't want any more drama in my life," usually mean they are sick of dramatic people in their life, or they are sick of interpersonal conflict in their life. But drama isn't about the people around you, it's actually about you. I know that if I experience conflict with others, I have conflict within myself. I am at war with myself. It's the same for everyone. If you're surrounded by drama, you can't easily cut all the drama out of your life because you are, in fact, the one who's attracting it. What happens then if you do manage to cut certain dramatic people out of your life? Different dramatic people will find you and fill in the places left by the others. It will keep happening until you realize why you are attracting conflict to your life. You've created a cycle of drama by attracting a suppressed aspect of yourself, an aspect you are trying to avoid. If you are a person who hates drama, then you are probably also someone who frequently invalidates other people's feelings by telling them that they are the ones being dramatic. That's because you have learned over the course of your life to invalidate your own feelings, and you impose this expectation on the people who surround you. Even though you wish you didn't feel the way you do, it's time to admit your feelings and stop being ashamed. Whenever you feel resistance to drama, remind yourself that no one overreacts, including you. You always act in perfect accordance with the reality that you perceive. You perceive a certain reality as a result of previous experiences you may not even remember. So you might be wondering, how can I deal with things I can't remember? We'll look at that in the next chapter with an in-depth discussion about how subconscious memories and triggers can sabotage your life and what you can do about them. In particular, I will introduce two concepts that I personally find very powerful: inner child work and the human shadow. And that concludes chapter 2. So inner child work and the human shadow, that is going to be coverage that is very reminiscent of Shadows Before Dawn. A lot of Shadows Before Dawn was pretty much a lot in Shadows Before Dawn was pretty much related to inner child work and shadow work. So that will be a callback chapter, this next one, for sure. More subconscious sort of stuff is really what Shadows Before Dawn was heavily focused about, the Shadows Before Dawn book. But the drama the drama section of this chapter was definitely really interesting. It's always interesting to think about how a particular situation can be drastically different in another person's reality, so to speak. And yeah, it's just very interesting because I just feel like more people, and myself included, we all need the ability to really try and see things from other people's points of view. I mean, you don't even have to be dissecting a situation or dissecting a problem, so to speak. It's just we spend so much time so self-indulged. I just feel like, I mean, how often are we really daydreaming about being in someone else? I suppose people do. I suppose people yearn for certain things or yearn to experience certain things that other people have experienced. But I mean, say even when it comes to close friends or family members or, you know, just people, the coworkers that we know, how often do we consciously make the effort or the attempt to sort of see things from their point of view? It's just something to think about because I mean, yeah, I mean, we all are sort of in our own little different realities when you kind of think about it. Um, Obviously, there are some things in this section that, you know, I don't 100% agree with or I have further questions on. Especially something that stuck out to me at the beginning. If I can, I should have highlighted it, but at the time that I read it, I was like, I probably won't bring that up. Um, it had to do with the soul. Um, um, so it was under the emotional wake up call section where it says, in truth, our souls are innately healthy and therefore can't be in an unhealthy state. And I don't know how much I agree with that. I hear a lot about how certain lives lived on Earth, if they are very traumatic, can in a way damage the soul. I hear a lot about that. Um, Even to the point where before you reincarnate, sometimes the soul needs to rest and sort of not exactly piece itself back together, but just sort of restabilize in a sense. So I'm not really sure if if she's ruling that out or if she's just basically saying at the base level, you know, fresh off the conveyor belt, it's in a healthy state and just, you know, cannot be healthy at the base level, or if she's just flat out saying like it can never be damaged. That's just one thing that stuck out to me, not really relating to anything else that was talked about in this chapter, but it was one thing that I didn't 100% agree with, since it's so vastly different from what I've heard. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this reading today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Is a bit of a longer one, but like I said, these chapters for the completion process are quite lengthy. I'm already looking at chapter 3 and it's, yeah, that one's gonna be a doozy. I mean, they're long chapters, but it's not that bad. I'll definitely have to set aside at least a half hour for each reading I do for this book, because yeah, the chapters can get quite lengthy. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed more continuation of the completion process. Hopefully the next part will be up on, I want to say Wednesday evening, or maybe early Thursday morning, hopefully. And yeah, in the meantime, I'll be doing more the Kybalion next, so stay tuned for that. Of course, as usual, if you guys enjoyed watching, if you enjoyed listening, make sure you drop a like on the video, comment below, just let me know what you thought. If there's anything you want me to work on, try my best, and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, so you can stay up to date with everything else going on here on the channel. A lot of stuff I want to get to, but readings are kind of the primary focus at the moment, so yeah, if you enjoy those, stay tuned for more. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you for your energy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.